Hi, Chris Maholka here. We're down on the Oregon coast catching Dungeness crab. The really cool thing about this, it's 50 degrees, sunny, late afternoon. There is almost nobody here. There's crab in, and it's late December. An incredible time to come to the Oregon coast. You got to remember that the world doesn't revolve totally around fly fishing, so take a day off and go crabbing. Pull one of our pots here. Now, these are crab rings, sometimes called pots. Doesn't feel very heavy, but it may have something in it. It's got a few little ones. Now this is your typical crab rings or crab pot. They call it a pot because when you hold it up, the rings expand and it looks like a pot. Pulled this one. We've got some small ones that we don't even need to measure, but we need to make sure they get back in the water carefully so they can grow up to be bigger. When you hold these things, they can reach out in front of them, and they can also reach somewhere down behind, some ways down behind. They can't reach over the top or clear to the back. So if you pick them up by the back two legs, keep your finger on them. That way they can't bite you. A lot of times when you're baiting the pots up, you got to give a little bit to the local wildlife. It makes them happy. And he'll guard us the rest of the day. Now what we do, these are wire boxes. They're made specifically to hold crab bait. We've got a turkey leg and some chicken and actually some old freezer dried shrimp in there. It's small enough that they can get in, crabs can get in and get little pieces out without taking the whole bait and running off with it. And then it hooks closed with a rubber band so it won't come open. Then you take a piece of wire. You can get these pre-made or make them yourself. Just a piece of fairly heavy baling wire, and it runs down through the pot, through the bait like this. Then it goes through a couple of these wire pieces on the bottom. And the reason it does that is it doesn't float away that way. The sea lions that come in to try to grab it and run with it can't take it. So we just wire that right in the bottom of the cage like that, so when the pot goes down, it sits on the bottom like this. The float up here on the rope holds the rope up above the pot, so it's sitting flat on the bottom. The crabs come in and eat. When you start to pull it after 5 or 10 minutes, when you pull, it becomes a trap for them, a pot, and you pull it fast enough that the water pressure holds them down in the pot. So it sits this way on the bottom, lets them eat, comes up this way, and they're caught. So let's get this one back in the water. So when you do get one that you think is big enough, first thing you need to do is check their bottom. A point like this means that's a male crab. In Oregon, you can only keep males. If it's a big rounded area, it's a female. So once we know it's male, we'll measure him. He looks too small, but I'm going to show you how to use the measure here. These plastic scales, there's one mark that goes on one side of the shell. It goes on the inside of that little hook there. And the Oregon mark is the first mark right there. So if you put the Oregon mark on this side of his shell, and the shell is bigger than that gap, if you can't put this down over his shell, he's legal to keep. If you're in Washington or California, you have to go out to the next sizes. California, for instance, it would be a lot bigger crab before you could keep him. So don't let him bite me there, but put the Oregon one there, that side. If it even touches and slides down, it's not legal. It has to be too big for it to go down over its side. So this guy is too small, and we'll just toss him back. Move it. Another pot with a bunch of small ones. So we'll just get them out of the mesh, grab them by the back so they can't bite you. Get the small ones back in. Okay, so now we're going to throw the pot back, and the easiest way to do this, once our bait stays in, is to just grab it kind of like a big frisbee, just give it a toss, making sure you're not tangled up in the rope. Now, compared to a pot like the last ones I pulled, this is a crab trap. These can set longer than 10 to 15 minutes because they're made for the crabs to get into and they can't escape. But once they have come in, they come in through doors, they work their way around until they find a place they can crawl into the trap, and they crawl in. Once again, they've got the bait in here they can feed on, but by law, there have to be holes big enough that juveniles can escape through. If I can get a hold of this little guy here, I can take him right up through that hole. So that hole's big enough, they can get back out without being trapped permanently. And so a lot of times when you're crabbing and the crabbing is really good, and you pull your trap up, it'll be full of a lot of very large crabs and not have too many small ones. This works basically the same way. Rope's off the top. You don't have to worry about the rope dropping down into it because it holds its own shape. When you get ready to go home, you just unclip hooks on the sides and the whole thing folds flat. So you can pack it in the car very easily and carry more of these in a small space than you would think. So let's just drop this back in the water and let it sit for a little while more and see what happens. This one feels a little heavy. Hopefully we'll have something in it. There's one there that may be big enough. Check and see he's a male. Okay, let's go get a measurement on him. This guy's a nice big one. He's, I think, way bigger than the Oregon size. So we'll just measure him here. We've already checked that he is legal. He's a male. So we'll turn him over. Now remember, we're going to go to the Oregon mark right here on this side. And you can see he's a lot bigger than the gap. If this went over like that, he wouldn't be legal. But there, that's a big Oregon legal crab. So we'll put him in the bucket and take him home. There's a couple in this pot that might be close. That guy's too little. Just take this guy, lay him on his back so he don't go anywhere. It's a male. And this guy, if I can get him to let go of everything, lay him there also because he might be close. We'll get the pot back out. And we'll check these two. So we'll set these guys here on their backs. We got our measure. We'll turn him over. This is the mouth. He's still having a little snack there. But put that Oregon sight on him, and he is just about 1/4 of an inch too short. So tow him back. I think this one might be about the same way. Oregon mark. And he is, again, about the width of that point. But since the measure is free and clear of the shell, he's too small. Back he goes. Whoop, there's a big one. That one's a male. He's big enough. So there he is. This is an old guy. He's got barnacles on his shells. Is a male. So we'll put the Oregon clip on this side of his shell. Go across. He's plenty big. He's going in our bucket, going home. So when you catch a keeper, just put him in a 5-gallon bucket of water like this. Scoop it right out of the bay. He'll be perfectly content living in the bottom of that until you get home and get ready to cook him. Well, looks like close to the end of another beautiful day here on the Oregon coast. We caught some crab, got them in our bucket, ready to take home. We'll take those home, boil some water on the outdoor cooker, and when you get a good rolling boil going, you throw them in, and they turn orange and curl up. And they cook for 20 minutes until they start to float, and they're ready to eat. So come down and enjoy the coast, catch some crab, and have a wonderful time. Last pot of the day. No keepers in it.